The purpose of this video is to save the racer a little bit of money and a little bit of time and a little bit of frustration in the racetrack. But first we have to go over a little bit of the history of the disc clutch and the drum and sprocket assemblies we use with them. Back in 1978, when the disc clutches first came on the market, they were constructed with a steel drum and a steel sprocket. Really good idea, but over the years we come to realize there were some shortcomings. In 1995, SMC engineers went to the drawing table and came up with a new design. 5 major improvements here over the old design. The most important improvement was that by using an aluminum drum instead of a steel drum, we could dissipate heat 5 times faster. The idea is that when a clutch is slipping, or like when you're leaving the grid or when you're going through a turn, it generates some heat. That heat, if it gets to a certain level, will raise the temperature in the clutch to a point where the friction material starts to slip. So we were looking for a way to cool off the clutch after it locks up and you're going down a straightaway. And by going to an aluminum drum, we can dissipate a lot of BTUs in a hurry so that when you arrive at the next corner, that the clutch is cooled off quite a bit and you're going to get better acceleration and more consistent engagement. The problem we ran into was that you cannot weld steel to aluminum, so we had to come up with a mechanical connection. And this is what we came up with in 1995. Apparently it's a very good idea. It's been copied by numerous companies over the years, and there are literally millions of copies of the SMC sprocket out there. But a new problem arose, and that this was designed back in the days of flathead engines, and the contact stresses between this flat and that flat were within reason. But the engines have gotten more powerful since 1995, and we also put these clutches on jack shafts, which put even more stress on those contact patches. So we had to come up with a better design. In 2012, the engineers at SMC went back to the drawing table and came up with a threaded connection. It's simply a left-hand thread that you screw into the drum finger tight when the clutch is new or when you first mount it. When you're on the racetrack, the torque from the engine will cause that sprocket to screw in a little bit tighter and give you a really solid connection. A third thing happens, and that is when you're on the racetrack and that aluminum drum starts to get hot, it dissipates heat faster, but also grows a little bit faster than the steel sprocket. So the diameter of that hole grows a tiny fraction of an inch, allowing the sprocket to screw in just a wee bit more, which is fine. But when the race is over and the clutch cools off, that aluminum will contract and get a really solid grip on that sprocket, and you're going to have a heck of a time trying to get it apart. So in order to get it apart, you're going to have to use some special fixture and a chain and maybe a breaker bar to break it loose. Which is then, that's fine also, but you created, again, another problem arises in that if you do that enough time, you'll get quite a bit of wear in the threaded area of the drum. And the wear is okay up to a point, but you get to a point where it starts to degrade to the point where the sprocket will actually tear out of the threads and it'll screw all the way through and it just won't connect at all. A way to prevent that problem is simply to go to the auto parts store or Walmart or wherever and pick up some anti-seize lubricant. There are many different brands, there are many different grades, there are many different formulations. Basically, all of them work. All you have to do is stir it up really good and apply some of that lubricant to the threads and when you screw it together. What will happen on the racetrack is that around 325 degrees, 350 degrees, the petroleum base of the anti-seize will boil off, it'll turn to a gas, and what will be left behind will be aluminum powder or nickel powder or copper powder, depending upon what grade of anti-seize you purchase, and that powder will act as a lubricant so that when you go to take these things apart, it'll take quite a bit less stress and torque to remove the sprocket from the drum, and you will get longer life out of your drum, which of course will save you money.